Photos and videos are like among the most personal digital assets we own. They preserve memories, relationships, places, moments, and people that often cannot be captured or recreated. Despite that, many of us store these memories on a large centralized cloud platform with little thought behind that decision. Mostly because these services are convenient, mostly these services just work. Over time, I began asking myself a simple question. Do I actually want a large corporation storing my entire personal photo archive? With generative AI being trained on everything these days, I've started wondering who actually owns my photos and what they're doing with them. With all these rising concerns, I decided to move my entire photo library off of Google Photos. Let me take you to this Google's policy page, and they state right here that if you do not use your Google Photos for 2 years or more, your photos and videos might be deleted. Before that happens, they'll do their due diligence, they'll send you an email, they'll give you a chance to avoid deletion, right? But here's the thing. If your photos and videos can be deleted by an entity that stores it, are you really in control of your data? Do you really trust this service enough to give it access to all your data? Imagine somebody that you recently lost. You don't have access to their Google Photos and you're trying really hard to get into their account, right? You know how account recovery is challenging these days, how they ask for different sort of proofs and verifications. So if you're trying to do that, and over the course of 2 years, if you cannot get to those photos, they're deleted. I mean, they say they might be deleted, but who's there to guarantee it? So this video is about why I made the decision to move off Google Photos and how I host my own photo storage server with $0 budget setup as broke as college student. So why I left? First reason was storage, or you could say the lack of money to pay for the storage. Google Photos gives you 15 gigabytes of free storage. It sounds generous until you realize that Google Photos, Google Drive, and Gmail are all sharing the same pool. So your photos, your files, email attachments, all are fighting for the same pool of storage, right? With modern smartphones shooting really large files, some even 4Ks, 15 GB fills up really fast, and the alternatives are just Google One, starting at around $3 a month for 100 GB. Not expensive in Western standards, but that I wasn't paying for that, right? The other reason for why I left was privacy and trust. Storage alone was not the main reason. Trust was. Google operates one of the largest data ecosystems in the world. That naturally raises the question about transparency, consent, and long-term control over personal data. Like I said, 2 years or more. Well, it's not me saying that, it's Google's own policy page. I'd want to show you this incident with Google recently. This was around May 2018. It was by CNIL, the French Data Protection Authority. They fined Google for 50 million euros for violation of transparency principle, which violated Europe's GDPR agreements. And then, so firstly, insufficient transparency. Information about data collection and advertising personalization was scattered across multiple documents. Users generally could not understand what was going on in those documents, and they would have to scour through all these documents just to find out what they were agreeing to. Second, invalid consent. Users were not given a clear, meaningful choice about what personalized advertising they were consenting to, what the data was going to be used for. Maybe it was going to be used for AI training. They would have to dig through a large document just to understand what they were consenting to. This violated GDPR, and CNIL fined Google 50 million euros, which was the largest GDPR penalties ever issued. Now there's even more. See, cases like these make me think more critically about how much I trust these centralized platforms. This is not just about assuming malicious intent. Google is a billion-dollar company that have a reputation to uphold, but even as a paying customer, your voice is just one of the many in hundreds and thousands of people. And do you really want a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate with your data? I think we all know how that goes, right? See, cloud does not eliminate risk. One misconception many people have is that cloud storage automatically means that the data is safe. It doesn't. Cloud just changes where the risk lives. Because it is not in your computer doesn't mean it's not a computer. It's a cloud computer. It's somebody else's computer, right? Somebody else owns it and manages it. So here's another example with Google itself. This was published May 25th, 2024. In 2024, Google Cloud accidentally deleted Austrian pension fund UniSuper's entire cloud environment. Internal provisioning misconfiguration by Google staff. Hundreds and thousands of members affected. Major service disruption, right? This is not a small company that we're talking about. This is a large scale company that pays Google to use their services. And they're like one of the many thousands of companies that use Google services for their work, right? Even a paying customer had their data deleted. What makes you think you're different? See, like I said, cloud does not eliminate risk. It just changes where the risk lives and who's responsible when things go wrong. With a company that size, you're among hundreds of millions of users. So with all that, I like to show you my setup, what I actually use for it. So I use this software called Immich. It runs on my machine that's in my own home, that's connected to my router, and it's being tunneled through Cloudflare tunnels. And I access it with Immich and my own custom domain. Immich for SSH access, because I do not want SSH access open to the internet. What hardware do I actually use? So it's an old laptop that I had lying around. It's an Intel i5 with an 8 GB of RAM, 256 GB storage. It's a solid state drive storage SSD. I use a terabyte of hard disk for redundancy backup, and it's hooked up directly to my router, right? Nothing too fancy, it just works. I had this laptop since a long time, and I just thought I'd put good use to it. There's a Raspberry Pi on the side that runs other services. So this is not something too fancy. This is just something that you could maybe build with all the spare hardware that you have lying around. And I did that. So with this, I have about 95 GBs currently in use, right? So all my images take up about 95 GBs there. And I also have a redundancy hard drive that I talked about. Now, I'm not paying anybody to manage this. And there are risks with this setup as well. Sometimes the internet may go down. Sometimes the hardware itself may fail, right? I'm taking the responsibility of recovery and uptime keeping, not a company. So I can lose all my data, and I've accepted that, because for me, all that matters is I'm in control of my own data, right? So if you're not comfortable with that, you can choose privacy respecting companies like Proton. Like I said, this runs Immich, and it also has other services as well. It runs Docker with Coolify to manage all the updating and fancy stuff, and Tailscale for SSH connection. It's just a WireGuard VPN that allows me to tunnel straight into the computer, update the system, update the dock instance and all. So it's quite fancy. Tailscale is fancy, not the server part. Now, Cloudflare, I use it to tunnel the Immich service itself, not the SSH part, because I want to be able to use my own domain that I have in order to access my photo server. And you can find the Immich app's GitHub link as well, so it's open source and free. So now I'm planning on upgrading it, but with the budget that I'm running this on, it's doing its job. It's not too fancy, it's getting things done. Honestly, there are downsides to this approach. Self-hosting has real trade-offs, not going to pretend otherwise, right? Come on, reliability is a major concern. Cloud uptime is extremely high. You're paying Google for reliability, hardware failures, and redundancy backups, right? I've had experiences, I've had issues with this server going down for up to 3 days at a time, right? So it's not a huge deal. I could get the server back up and running because all I had to do was reboot it. But those things, you're paying for the convenience of uptime with Google. But here you're actually just managing it on your own. Hardware failures can also happen. Drives fail, SSDs fail. Even though SSDs are better than hard disks, they still have a chance to fail. With my setup, the hard disk is quite new, as well as the SSD that I have in the server, right? So in that case, I'm not really worried. In the future, I do have to think about redundancy backups and how I'm going to keep my files really secure. So maintenance is also another thing. Like I talked about, updates, storage, backups. These are all something that I have to do, and I'm somebody that is quite technical, so I find it quite rewarding for me to manage my own system, manage my own updates. So I find that rewarding, but it's not something for everyone, right? Who's this video for? It's not for everyone. If you care about your privacy, data ownership, self-hosting, and learning new infrastructure, this video is for you. I just showed off what I have and what you could possibly do with old hardware lying around, rather than relying on large-scale services. See, I'm not saying, alright, everybody get your old laptops out and start self-hosting Immich. Rather, if you have the means to do it, I'd suggest you play around with it and try and learn more about data privacy and self-hosting. So with all that rambling on, I've left all my sources down in the description. The Google Fine, the CNIL issuing 50 million cookies and privacy concern. There's even 325 million euros by CNIL as of September 2025. So the fines keep growing, the concerns keep rising. So I'd suggest you look into these things, take control of your own data. Alright, I think I recorded it. I don't even know I was going to edit all this shit, right? My last video was, I don't know how long it was. I think 342, 343 days as of recording this. As I'm recording this audio, it says 340 days, so it's not off by a large amount. And if you're still watching this, wow, thank you, bye bye.